Well, the heat remains on President Joe Biden tonight. House Republicans want answers, including a list of who visited President Biden's Wilmington home, where 5 more pages marked classified turned up last week. Nicole D'Antonio has more on the response coming from the White House and the lack of response from the president himself.
Will you commit to speak to the special counsel?
President Biden ignored shouted questions from the White House press corps Tuesday about the special counsel investigation into his handling of classified material. The White House says it is limited in what it can say publicly now that there's an ongoing investigation.
We are trying to be very prudent here, and we're trying to be very consistent and say this is an ongoing legal process, and this is why I say we're just not going to comment from here.
The White House has turned over roughly 20 documents found at Mr. Biden's home and former office.
At no time did he get raided by the FBI. At no time did they come forward and say who was there could actually see these documents that are sitting in the garage behind a Corvette.
Republicans say the Justice Department is handling the investigation into President Biden differently than the investigation into former President Trump. The White House says it immediately turned over the documents to the National Archives and notified the DOJ, whereas the FBI executed a search warrant to recover more than 100 documents from former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home after he denied repeated requests to turn them over. In both cases, the DOJ has assigned a special counsel to see if there's criminal wrongdoing.
But are the same amount of agents investigating this that are investigating President Trump? Is the same push behind it? It just does not seem fair.
House Republicans have already launched a select committee to investigate what they call the weaponization of the federal government, claiming the DOJ unfairly targets conservatives. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And the White House says it's reviewing letters from House Republicans with oversight over all this and say they will respond in due time, but at the same time calls all these investigations political spin. Now, the question that a lot of folks have right now is, what are presidents and vice presidents allowed to take? According to former CIA Director Michael Morrell, both can take classified documents home with little accounting of what they have and where they are.
They're cut slack because of who they are. And I think that's what has to end. Somebody needs to be put in charge of knowing what information has gone to the residents and making sure that that information comes back.
Now, there are 3 broad classification levels. There's confidential, secret, and top secret, and it all depends on the risk that the intelligence, if it were to get out, would pose to national security. The levels are indicated on cover pages, like those that you see there from the Mar-a-Lago raid, and then on the top and bottom of each page, as we show here in these mock-ups.
We're talking about military intelligence, we're talking about human sources, we're talking about nuclear related material. I think what is key here is less about what types of things can be secret and more about the harm that these things would cause to national security if they were disclosed.
Now, the special counsel working on President Biden's documents begins his work as early as this week to find out why those classified documents were not at the National Archives.